Hey everybody, Metal Shop Steve here again. This is kind of a video I didn't expect to make today, but I just happened to be poking around on YouTube and listening to some stuff, and this band came up, and I liked it so much that I decided to do a video. So the band is called Frozen Crown. They're Italian, and they've got a couple of albums out. And I just stumbled across a video and I gave it a watch, and then I liked it and I started listening to more of their stuff, and so it went from there. So here's what I'm going to talk about. They have two albums out. 2018, their debut album, The Fallen King, and then one that came out here in 2019 called Crowned in Frost. And that's the one I'm going to talk about. But first, a little bit about the band. Again, as I said, formed back in Italy somewhere around 2017, so they're a fairly new band. Federico Mondelli is kind of the driving force behind the band, the founder, a songwriter. He plays guitar and keyboards, and he does some backing vocals. The lead singer is a woman named Jade and I'm going to talk about her vocals in just a minute because they are outstanding. And then finally, another musician that I want to point out here is their other guitarist, Talia Belazecca, and you'll find out why when I talk about them. So musically, kind of speed metal, a little bit of thrash mixed in there, some progressive, symphonic, kind of a mix of all of that. Makes for a very really technically precise, well-rounded sound. So kind of going down the list here, drums and bass, they're kind of what you'd expect for this type of setup. They're not overwhelming like you get with some of these bands, that they just overpower the music. Guitars, excellent guitars here. The tone is fantastic. The technique is fantastic. They have just a real musical sensibility. Clearly, they've got some great roots there behind their sound. And then finally, vocals. Again, Jade. Again, really powerful vocals, kind of soaring, really clean. It's a very clean vocal. And it's not soft. And it doesn't really have kind of that high-pitched sound to it. That's probably the wrong word. But it's a little bit more mature sounding and just really kind of unlike any other vocal that I've heard lately. It's beautiful, but it's not soft. Maybe that's the best way to put it. At times, and it's very, very, very impressive, and she does have a range. And weirdly enough, the people that I will compare her to are not other female vocalists, but she's got a little bit of that James LaBrie. She's got a little bit of Queensryche in there vocally, just because of the really long sustained, especially Queensryche, long sustained notes. And the other one that I will give her a comparison to, and for me, this is a high compliment. I think at times she has a bit of a Steve Perry vibe to her voice. And in my book, he is one of the top singers of all time. So there you go. That's kind of the band. And now let's talk about the songs. I'll just go through the album again. Crowned in Frost is the name of the album. So Arctic Gates is just kind of a little instrumental intro to get things going, followed up by Never Ending. And I'll also say this before I get too far in, they have a bunch of videos, so definitely check those out. They're well done videos, they're beautiful, they're kind of mysterious, a little bit like fantasy type of feel to them. So Never Ending, one of my favorite songs on the album right off the bat here. It's kind of got that really speed vibe to it. It's almost in this one like an old school thrash sound, maybe to some of the more epic stuff that Metallica did in the early days guitar-wise. That's what you hear here. It's got strong, clean vocals. And one of the other things throughout is they do a really nice job with both guitars of playing, kind of that dual guitar sound. And you know it when you hear it. It's the two guitars playing the same notes. Really good. They follow that up with In the Dark, and this one, the thing that I like best about this song is the solo. The solo in here, the instrumental guitar parts have almost this Steve Vai tone. If you go back and listen to Passion and Warfare by Steve Vai, one of the absolute best guitarists around, just there's something about the tone of the song that reminds me of that. Battles in the Night, next up, that has more of that dual guitar sound. Just vocally, it's got the powerful, soaring, long, sustained vocal notes. Really a good song. Winterfall, that one has kind of a fantasy feel to it. That one, I believe there's a video, and that might even be the first one that I saw that kind of pulled me in to the rest of this band, Winterfall. And still a really good song. As I said, it was kind of my gateway into the rest of the band. So strong vocals, haunting, and it's got this nice screaming part at the end. So I'm not sure. I believe that Federico does some of the screaming. He's listed as background vocals and some vocals, so I believe some of that is him. Next up, right in the middle of the album, Unspoken. And this is my favorite song on the album. It's got, it's a strong metal song all around, but it's certainly led by Jade's vocals. This one is led by the vocals all the way, but they're not overpowering. So that's a nice feel. It's so strong. The vocals, and it's a fast churning song, a really fantastic guitar solo in this one. Almost a Dream Theater vibe here when they really get going. She hits really high notes here, those high sustained notes. So all around, it has just a lot of different elements that make for an absolutely stunning rock song. So Unspoken, my favorite one on the album. Next up, Lost in Time. It starts out with kind of a rock beginning, but then it mellows out. You get softer vocals. You get kind of that piano keyboard sound in there. So a little bit softer. Next up, The Wolf and the Maiden. And here's another little instrumental. It's kind of airy, kind of atmospheric instrumental. And next up then is it's a song called Forever, which is another one of my favorites on the album. It's got this really operatic vocal to open the song, and then it leads into just, again, Jade's soaring power over this kind of churning metal all the way through. And it's a very smooth, polished sound. So, I really believe that some of these musicians here, at least some of them, have been doing this quite well for a long time. Followed after that by Enthroned, and that's another little instrumental. They've done this a couple times here throughout the album, little interludes. Enthroned it's got these very ethereal, not vocals because they aren't words, but just kind of like vocal melody and keyboards. And a nice segue into the final song of the album, which is the title track, Crowned in Frost. And also one of my favorite songs on the album. This song's kind of funny, not funny, but ironic, and I'll tell you why. I mentioned that the drums earlier are done really well. And I would say they're done really well for most of the album. Now, you've heard me mention on other music reviews, probably if you've seen them, that when a band, especially a fast band, does that rapid fire drumming, that da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, sometimes I find it off-putting. It overwhelms the song, It seems like it just sticks out, like they threw it in there just because somebody wanted to prove that they could play the drums really fast. So at the beginning and at the end of this song, there are little sections where there's that drum, just rapid fire drumming that that almost ruins the song for me. But fortunately, the rest of the song is so good that it saves it and even pushes it up there to be one of my favorite songs on the album. So once that drumming intro gets out of the way at the start, there's some really great screaming intermixed here. So, you know, there are the nice clean vocals, and then there are some nice screaming parts. You know, kind of just a nice balance there with those two. There's a really great speed riff here at the end. That guitar work, again, is just, it's spot on. It's great, it's beautiful, it's rocking. And then, again, to close out the song, there's some more of that kind of off-putting drumming. Just a little spot in there, and I don't know why they chose to do that. But either way, it ends up well, and that's the album. 11 songs, a couple of little interludes, little instrumental things, but overall, it was a really pleasant surprise for me to come across today. Not something, I'm not really sure how I would have found this other than just through what I do on YouTube, which is one of the reasons that I do this channel. It's a lot of it is selfish for me to discover new music and to get to talk about it. So there it is. Again, Frozen Crown, the name of the band. They're Italian, fairly new out there, and Crowned in Frost. The album came out in 2019. Go check it out. I will leave you all the links you need below. And who knows? Maybe we'll see an interview pop up at some point because I love to do those. So again, thanks for stopping by for this album review, and come by and check out the next one.